pregnancy tests, ovulation tests, and now the latest in tests you can do in your bathroom laboratory, menopause tests. Clear Blue have now come out with an over-the-counter kit to help women who are, quote, confused and wondering if what you're feeling is the start of the menopause journey or perhaps something else. All you need to do is pee on a stick and you'll know if you're premenopause, perimenopause, or postmenopause. Sounds great and very useful if you're deciding if you should invest in bulk tampons or buy the small just-in-case box. The idea of a test to see where you are hormonally is really appealing. Nobody wants to wait until they've not had a period for 12 months to know if their ovaries are permanently out of business. The test measures FSH, also known as follicle-stimulating hormone. When estrogen is high, FSH takes a vacation and is low. When your ovaries are out of business and estrogen levels tank, FSH rises in a hopeless attempt to try and get your ovaries to make some estrogen. During perimenopause, FSH levels fluctuate. They're all over the place. Once a woman is postmenopause and estrogen production has permanently stopped, FSH levels remain high until she dies. So it is scientifically legitimate to measure FSH as an indication of estrogen production. Which brings me to these home menopause tests. Are they accurate? They claim to be 99% accurate. Is that true? Well, it is true. Home tests are 99% accurate in detecting the presence of FSH in urine. But accurate is not the same as useful. Accurate does not mean it will tell you anything that you didn't already know. In my opinion, with rare exception, these tests are ridiculous. If you're 48 years old, having irregular periods, mood swings that come and go, and on and off hot flashes, you don't need a test to determine if you're in perimenopause. You're in perimenopause. And since the levels are unpredictably up and down, you may do a test, get a low FSH level, and think, okay, it's not perimenopause. I just can't sleep and feel like crap because my mother-in-law is making me crazy and I'm about to lose my job. But chances are you are in the middle of perimenopause and just happen to do the test on a day when your FSH was low. It's not just urine tests that are misleading. This also happens when women go to their doctor for a blood test, which is why we don't do these tests routinely. A well-meaning doctor who's not a menopause expert may agree to do a blood level for FSH and then report that your FSH is normal. The problem is your FSH may have been normal at 2 o'clock on Tuesday when they did the test, but 3 weeks later, it's sky high. That's perimenopause. The only thing that's predictable is that it is unpredictable. The number doesn't tell you where you are on your so-called journey. FSH does not gradually rise. It bounces around more than the stock market. The Clear Blue people acknowledge that these levels can fluctuate during perimenopause and get around this problem by giving you 5 test kits to use over the course of 10 days. Except 10 days out of 1 month isn't long enough to get the big picture. The nature of perimenopause is that you may have normal estrogen levels for weeks and then tank for a few months, which is why it's not a good idea to get on an airplane wearing white and having no tampons until you've been without a period for at least a year. Trish was a patient of mine who was 39 years old and wondering if she was close to menopause. She wanted to know if she was still fertile. Her periods were regular and she had no menopause symptoms. She asked her internist to do an FSH level, which came back slightly elevated, around 15. She came to me because she was told by her internist that her slightly elevated FSH was an indication that perimenopause was around the corner and that she was likely no longer fertile. And a repeat FSH 4 months later was 9, which is what you would expect in a young woman who's still making normal amounts of estrogen. Also, if you happen to test mid-cycle, there is generally a spike in FSH that occurs with ovulation. So if your FSH level is high due to ovulation, you may get fooled into thinking you're in perimenopause and need to think about hormone therapy when what you really need to think about is contraception. So Trish asked me when I'm going to become perimenopausal, and I told her I had no clue since I didn't have a crystal ball and her urine and blood tests were not helpful or predictive of her, quote, journey. Joan was 46 years old when she started missing periods, so she got a test. Her FSH was low, and her internist told her she was not perimenopausal, but probably missed her periods because of stress. But 6 months later, she started flashing and her periods disappeared for good. So, yeah, she was stressed, but she was also in perimenopause. If, like Joan, you're in your 40s or 50s, having irregular periods, hot flashes, and vaginal dryness, I have news for you. Once I've eliminated other reasons for irregular periods, like a thyroid condition, you're in perimenopause, and an FSH will not tell you anything you don't already know. Speaking of not telling you something you don't already know, Rochelle was 54 years old, hadn't had a period in 2 years, and was having hot flashes, vaginal dryness, weight gain, brain fog, and insomnia. Okay, think about this. If you were 9 months pregnant, would you run out and buy a home pregnancy test? For some reason, she thought that the results would indicate how much longer she was going to have hot flashes. So she shows up in my office and was visibly upset that I wasn't interested in seeing her clear blue results. I told her I didn't need to see those results or, for that matter, do any further testing to know that she was no longer making estrogen. She told me she kind of knew that was the case, but thought the results would be helpful to me since, as they say on the Clear Blue website, get a personalized menopause report to share with your doctor. And that's the best part. They actually think doctors will find this information to be useful, which is why at the last menopause conference I attended, the Clear Blue folks had a booth. They were trying to explain to the menopause experts why they should encourage their patients to get these kits and why we would find them useful. Whoa. I headed over to their booth to have a chat. It didn't go well. I basically told them I didn't need my patients to spend $50 on a kit to log menopause symptoms on the required app, and I wasn't in the least bit interested in a week's worth of home urine FSH levels. 90% of the time, I told them, I will know if a woman is premenopause, perimenopause, or postmenopause by looking at her menstrual cycle history, to listen to her symptoms, and knowing her age. There are some special circumstances. Take the woman who enters menopause prematurely. If I have a 32-year-old who's missing periods without explanation and has menopause symptoms, I may opt to get some serial hormone blood levels to see what's going on and also look at other markers that are an indication of ovarian insufficiency or premature menopause. But I'm certainly not going to rely on a home urine test. And if someone is in her 30s and concerned about premature menopause, she really needs to see an expert. I had one 32-year-old patient who missed a few periods. When her home pregnancy test was negative, she did a home menopause test. It came back indicating a high FSH level, and understandably, she got really, really depressed. I mean, she was trying to figure out how to break it to her fiance that she was going into menopause and that pregnancy was out of the question. And then she got her period. She was ovulating at the time she had the test. Another special circumstance is the woman who doesn't get periods, either because she's had a hysterectomy, a uterine ablation procedure, or has a progestogen IUD. In episode 106, It's Time to Redefine Menopause, I get into the specifics of how to know if you're in perimenopause or postmenopause if you don't get periods. Look, I get it. Women are looking for information and their doctors aren't helping them. And I'm not against the idea of home tests. At the bottom of the Clear Blue website, they state, only a healthcare professional can confirm your menopause stage. If what you're trying to do is avoid going to a doctor, according to the Clear Blue people, you need to see a doctor anyway. And trust me, despite their trying to convince me otherwise, a menopause expert will not be in the least interested or need the results of your home FSH kit. Before I finish this rant, I thought, okay, maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe women really appreciate this information. So I went on Amazon to check out the comments of women who'd bought the kits. Putting aside the reviews that complained about technical problems and tests that didn't work, and the women who were upset that they had to log their symptoms on an app in order to get a result, the majority of the reviews were along the lines of, it didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. Take this one from Michael D. When the week was over and I finally got my results, they said I'm most likely in early stages of perimenopause, and I might be experiencing ... all the symptoms I'd entered into their daily data questionnaire. I could have talked to a mirror for the same feedback. And then it said, for best results, see a doctor. Ha ha. Thanks a lot. And finally, my report said I am in perimenopause based solely on my reported symptoms. Basically, this test didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. This is on par with mood rings and horoscopes. I couldn't have said it better.